are you getting confused after graduation and don't get lost in your career path? So I know that many people now, even in this difficult situation, are finishing their master thesis, PhD thesis, postdocs. Some of you guys can't move abroad for a postdoc or for a PhD. So it's been a bit challenging. And I believe that it's especially now that we need to open up to new opportunities and discuss with people who chosen absolutely different career pathways after their graduation. And that's today's roundtable discussion. So we've already met today two of our speakers, and let me introduce another speakers who will be participating in roundtable discussion. It's Professor Roberto Pellicciari, and he's the president and CEO of Pharma in Italy, and adjunct professor at the University of Maryland in the United States. His main lines of research have been directed to the development of new synthetic methodologies, the chemistry of natural products, the design and synthesis of molecules active on the CNS. A significant portion of the research was directed to the discovery of new drugs for metabolic and liver disease. Then we would like to welcome Tracy Viralin. She was born in Borgomanero in Italy, and she received her master's degree in pharmaceutical chemistry and technology and her PhD in science of bioactive compounds from the University del Piemonte Orientale, sorry for my Italian accent, in 2007. She is currently an associate professor in medicinal chemistry at the Università del Piemonte Orientale, where her main research interest is in design and synthesis of bioactive compounds via multi-component reactions and click chemistry, with a focus on store-operated calcium and 3-TRP channels and indoleamine 2,3 dioxygenase. In 2016, she co-founded the startup ChemIcare. Another speaker in this roundtable discussion is Giulio Volpin. He studied chemistry and pharmaceutical technology at the University of Urbina in Italy. In 2017, he completed his PhD in the field of alkyloid total synthesis at LM in Munich. And then he did a postdoc at the University of New York, where he worked on aliboration reaction and small molecule enables on protein folding. And then he joined Bayer Crop Sciences lab head in process research in 2018. He currently works on route scouting synthesis, about which we've heard today a bit, and large-scale synthesis campaigns for agrochemical active ingredients. So let me stop sharing that, as Marcus recommended to us, that we will all see ourselves. Thank you guys for joining this roundtable discussion. And the way we're going to do it, so that I will start by asking several questions that we already prepared with the communication team of EFMC. And then all of you will be replying if you feel that that's in your especially interest. And then to the audience, please, again, in the YouTube channel, just type in your question, and then we will try to make sure that we have time to reply to this question. So let's start. Our first question is, if you're not sure about your future and cannot choose between industry and academia, what should you do to leave open possible careers options? Okay, Giulio, please.
So, yeah. So I think I can share a personal story here, and which was that until the very end of my postdoctoral career, I didn't really know what I wanted to do later. I knew that I wanted to stay in science, but I really liked the interaction at the university and with the students. But I also really was very curious about the industrial point of view. And what I regret not doing earlier is seeking out more interaction with industry, because especially with in a university environment, you always tend to stick to your own type of quarters and never really look at what's on the other side of the fence. And only a very selected few of us can actually do internship in industry or have colleagues that work directly in industry where they can have a first look to this. But there are workshops, there are symposiums that are organized by industry, there are PhD contests that are organized by industries. And so that's what I encourage all of you to do, to look at the websites, to look if you can do internships if you're in your undergrad, look at if there are any industry funded academic research grants to work abroad, where you also get to know the people that work on a day-to-day basis in the industrial environments, and then you will have a better picture and also a gut feeling of what is right for you in the long term.
Yeah, if I can add something, because I really agree with Giulio. And maybe what I can add is that there are many opportunities in Europe which can help you to spend an experience in companies while doing the PhD. For example, there are these European training networks that are Marie Curie programs in which you can do your PhD in academia while spending some secondments periods in industries, so internship, in which you can make contacts with the professional world and with the industries, so that you can have a better overview on both the academic and industrial world. So I suggest the students to look for a PhD position in these sort of networks. They are called ETN program, that stands for European Training Networks. And they foresee this secondments period in companies, which I think are very, very useful to gain experience in both the fields while doing your PhD.
If I can add something, I'm on the same, I have the same idea of the previous speakers. I think that today medicinal chemistry is part of a team that handles essentially all the components of the drug discovery process. And this is difficult to do for medicinal chemists who do PhD in university also. So my advice would be, even for people that want to stay in the university, to do postdoc in a company or in a biotech. We do. My experience is the contrary. I come from the university, from the University of Perugia. By the way, today we are 3 Italians with the same experience, and probably all of them have already, with what we call chemistry and technology of drugs, some broad experience, not only in chemistry and biology, but in general, for a medicinal chemist, a PhD in the States, or especially for those who come from organic chemistry, probably a postdoc in a company or in a biotech or in a institution where really you do drug discovery would be very important. You know, from my experience, you know, universities done of silos. I had my group in Italy was a silos, and the silos have the length of a research group. So what you need is to learn translational science, and in the university. For example, many of my colleagues in the industry, medicinal chemists, are now hired by drug discovery centers in the States, especially. So there is, you know, this type of possibility for industrial medicinal chemists to be hired by school of pharmacy or school of chemistry who wants to develop drug discovery. But my point is, for a medicinal chemist to have an experience in the industry, not too long, or else it's become difficult to go back to the university. University, you know, is a very murky place where you need politics. You cannot stay out for more than 2-3 years. Or they occupy your bench, they take away your books, you know, come back in empty spaces. So, but a couple of years of experience in a company or in a biotech. We do, for example, in my company, which is Pharma, which is in Perugia now. We have every year 1-2 people from Switzerland or from other countries, and they learn in our place something which is crucial for the medicinal chemistry of today, which is skill of communication between different disciplines, integration, something that is not easy in the university. That would be my advice, to have a couple of years in centers where they can learn to, communication, be in a group, in a team group, to learn how to become part of a team, and vice versa.
Thank you so much for your replies, guys. And actually, the next question is really directly even related to some of your replies. Some people are a bit afraid to take one path and then not being able to go back to the other path. So basically, if you decide to do a postdoc in academia, could you still move to industry after a few years? Or is there any possibility to go back to academia after having joined the company for a few years? Could you comment on the flexibility to move between academia and industry in both directions? So is the door closed afterwards?
Well, I think it's very difficult to generalize, but what I can say is that it's much more easy moving from academia to industry than moving from industry to academia. But this is simply because these two worlds require different CVs, require different skills, require different qualifications. So maybe my colleagues from companies can confirm it or not, but I think that when hiring, companies look for skills like what Roberto was saying, so social skills, communication skills, problem-solving skills, the ability to work in a team. While in academia, you have to build up a completely different CVs where you have to demonstrate that you have teaching experience, you have to demonstrate that you have a good record of publications. So, for example, in Italy, if you want to climb the career ladder in academia, you have to fulfill a set of thresholds, like an exact number of publications, a number of citations. You have to publish on journals with a high impact factor. So you really need to start building your CV early, because if you don't do that, and if you spend a few years in industry, it becomes very difficult to build such a strong CV that relies mainly on publications, citations, and impact factor. You have also to demonstrate that you have teaching experience, that you have mentoring experience, that you have obtained some awards. So building such a strong CV requires time, and I think it's better if you start very early, if your aim is to undertake a career in academia. This is what I think from the academia point of view. Maybe some other can comment on the skills and CV that industry requires. I don't know if I was wrong when I was saying that industry maybe look for something different, that it's not just a question of publications, but it's something more.
So I think that that a postdoc in academia, which is at the start of the question, is definitely a very widely accepted career path. So you start your undergraduate research, then you do your graduate research, then you pivot to, most of the times, a different area of research during your postdoc, something that has always interested you, or something where you can think you wanted to make an impact, or even where you wanted to be more specialized in. And what you and Roberto said, you need to be able to communicate with different people, to talk science with different type of people of different ages and different backgrounds and with different interests. That's what a postdoc is there for. And that's why people in industry, regardless if they are chemists or biologists, but can show that they have done something else within their postdoctoral framework, when you would expect them to be already a completely developed scientist, are extremely sought after in industry. So it's never a disadvantage to be in a university for a very long time. Certainly then, the generalization stops if somebody has shown that you have been at the university for 15 years, 20 years, and then suddenly you want to have a career change, which then begs the question, why? Where is your motivation, your passion coming from? But these are very isolated cases. On the other hand, going from an industrial career to an academic career really depends on the type of ideas that you want to bring to an academic environment. I think that the mentoring and the training part in industry is often underestimated compared to the one in academia, because in industry we have students, we have technicians, we have a certain responsibility of training and mentoring that maybe is of a different structure than the one in academia, but I wouldn't say it is absent completely. The point of view that industry gives you will definitely shape the type of research and the type of work that one can do in academia. And it is not uncommon to bring more industrially relevant themes to an academic setting. If you think, for example, for chemical engineering projects, as well as very specialized chemistry projects, for example, fluorination chemistry, that is a topic that is driven by industrial interest mostly. And so it really, really depends what you want to do. But definitely one path is easier than the other.
Thanks, guys, for the reply. I have actually another question, because we have, in fact, 3 of the panelists who co-founded companies. So could you share with us your experience on how did you decide to start a company? Was it difficult? And is there a perfect moment in your career to do so? So maybe Benedikt, because you just started the company directly after your PhD, you could start.
Yeah, I mean, I can basically say that I accidentally slid into there initially. So I did my PhD, and then, as a lot of other people, I was looking for a postdoc, and I didn't really have on the radar that you can do another thing, like, for example, founding a company. But then there was the opportunity, and I got a bit more involved in that, and suddenly it seemed like a good possibility. So I think it's, if you would like to follow this career path, or just it's good to go out and have an idea and talk to people initially, whether they are someone who is interested in that particular idea, get a lot of feedback, and just like you're doing now, you're talking to asking questions to people whether you should do the academic or the industry career path. Go out and talk to a lot of people, ask them about the idea, get feedback, and that's the best way to figure out whether you should go for this or not.
Okay,
and
great.
yeah, regarding the time, when is the best time? When you're young, you can take a lot of risks, I think. So for me, it looks like a good time because I'm young, and even if this thing should not work, I can hopefully go back to academia or industry. So when you have then kids or family later, it might not be such a good opportunity or time anymore. But yeah, it depends mostly on your surrounding.
Great, thanks for the reply. And Roberto, how it was for you with TES Pharma?
I had interruption. Were you asking a question?
If you could share with us your experience in also sharing your academic pathway together with industrial pathway, with being a professor, but also having a company. Because this is something what also young scientists are curious to hear, because basically, yeah, you and Tracy are doing kind of both sides.
No, my experience has to do with translation, as I was saying before. Having a drug in commerce that was approved by FDA in 2016, I did it in the discovery in the university. But for me, it would have been impossible to do the drug discovery process all in the university. So I had to found a company in New York and to go back and forth from university to the company and so on. In the university, it would have been totally impossible to do all the process. That's the problem. That's why, in my opinion, medicinal chemistry is very good in universities. You can become a very good medicinal chemist. The problem is drug discovery. I consider myself, I come from organic chemistry. I became a medicinal chemist. I did all my career in medicinal chemistry. My journey was in drug discovery. My career is something, but my trip was in drug discovery. And I know that is very difficult to do in the university. And that's why I started a spin-off, then when it became a startup, now it's a small PMI, because there I can have all the competences and the translation, and then I can hire people and give them these communication skills, interdisciplinary skills that are needed for drug discovery. The other possibility in the university, in academia, would be to form a center for drug discovery, a little bit separated from the school, so that you can hire people from the industry that can teach how to do translation. That's the American model. In other words, in the academia, you can have very excellent medicinal chemists, but the translational process is very difficult. For what Tracy was saying, you need to do career, and to do career, you need to show that you have your own paper, that you publish alone, that you are the first author, and so on. So that's very complicated. I think that to do spin-off is a way out for medicinal chemists, which are very ambitious.
Yeah.
So Tracy, if you could maybe shortly comment
yes.
before moving to the next question. We have a lot of questions piling up.
Yeah, I just can bring my experience on that. I founded a ChemIcare, which is a spin-off company of the University of Piemonte Orientale 4 years ago. And it's a startup which is committed to the development of an orphan drug for a rare disease, which is named tubular aggregate myopathy. And yeah, my experience is that it's very, very challenging trying to develop a drug. Maybe it's easier if you try to develop a device, or you try to develop a diagnostic kit, or if you try to develop an application. But trying to develop a drug is not easy, because when you talk with investors, they always say that it's a too risky project, but projects in the pharma sector are risky by definition. When you talk with big pharma, your preclinical data are always not enough. You are always at an early stage. So getting the right investments that you need to start a serious preclinical study is not so easy. And so our experience is that it's very, very difficult. So my suggestion is, if you want to found a startup which is committed to drug development, do it as a spin-off, so that you can exploit all the facilities and equipment of the university. So you can use the instruments, the resources in academia, while trying to get the financial resources that you need at a certain point to seriously develop your compound.
Okay, and then we have another question. Is regarding the importance of a postdoc. If people think that a lot of students, they ask themselves the question after completing a PhD: shall they apply for a postdoc or not, or shall they do the industrial postdoc as you suggested? But it's also kind of difficult to find such positions. And where would you find such position? So maybe Martin, you could comment on this. If afterwards for job search, or it's useful to do a postdoc.
Yeah, so from my personal experience, of course, I did not do a postdoc myself. So I directly, I was interested actually in starting in industry because I knew for myself that I did not want to work later on in academia. So I thought that it would be best to instantly get engaged in industry to gain my experience directly in industry. And yeah, but I think if you are not sure if you want to end up in industry or academia, then maybe an academic postdoc can give you also the flexibility you want. But as we already discussed today, of course, it's also possible to do a postdoc in industry. So I think a postdoc is not really, it's not really the key changer in your career. So you can still afterwards, depending on where you do it, you will always gain new experience. So especially if you are working in chemistry and you are interested in working in the lab, you will always get the experience in the lab and working in a new environment with new people. So if you are not sure, it's not, yeah, it will not stop your career choosing one or the other.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on this one? If not, then we have another question is regarding more academic career. Can graduate students try to pursue an academic career without having the high impact factor papers? What are your personal suggestions? Because also, Tracy, you said that in Italy, you have to have certain number of publications, certain impact factors, but sometimes either your project is not as successful, or when you published, it's not that of high impact factor. What would be your suggestions, and if it's possible? So maybe, yeah, Roberto and Tracy, if you could comment on this.
Yeah, my suggestion would be to try to look for a PhD position or a postdoc position in a very active and dynamic group. This doesn't mean that it should be a prestigious group, because sometimes when you join a very prestigious and big group, you're just one person among many others. And the risk is that you just publish one paper in 3 years with a high impact factor, but this is not enough to undertake an academic career, at least in Italy, I don't know in other countries. So my suggestion is try to find the right group where to spend your PhD or your postdoc, a dynamic and active group in which you have the possibility to follow not just one project, but more than one. You can have the possibility to mentor master students, and so get involved in more than one project, and maybe more than one paper will come out. Also try to choose a group that has good connections with companies, a group with a startup inside, a spin-off company, something dynamic, not too narrow-minded. This maybe can open up some opportunities to build up this strong CV.
And Roberto, what would you recommend?
I agree with Tracy. Of course, if you have a Nature paper, it makes the difference, I can tell you. And so it depends.
It depends.
But hiring in the university is a very strange and slow and screwy process. So it depends from the university, really. Of course, if we talk about the United States, the quality of papers, I remember when I was visiting professor teaching in La Jolla in the UCSD, I was so surprised that they would hire an assistant professor with 3 papers. He was, of course, coming from Harvard. He had 3 papers, but in the field that was needed to the school. In Italy, that would be impossible, where you weight the papers and not necessarily the quality. So it depends from the country, I must say. But again, if you have a Nature, it makes a difference, also in Italy, for example.
And what would you recommend? That's a question to everyone. So a lot of PhD positions and postdoc positions now have been postponed for some countries for half a year, for some countries for 1 year. And there are a lot of students out there who are finishing now their graduation, either from master's, from PhD, or from postdoc, and their plans been disrupted. So what do you recommend to those people who found themselves in the situation and they don't really know how to move forward? So what would be your suggestions?
I miss some of your questions. So you say, would one would advise different levels, or you say?
No, because people nowadays, they cannot move. For example, someone I know who supposed to start a PhD in California and living in Switzerland cannot simply travel at the moment to California and start the PhD. So you still have this vacuum of half a year or potentially 1 year of time, which you could spend on your career development, either in between masters and PhD or after PhD and doing a postdoc. Would you recommend to search for another postdoc in the same lab, or would you recommend to?
No, in a different. Well, no, I would recommend in a different lab, of course. And yeah, no, absolutely. I think that this is a. No, I feel this is the question because I cannot hear well now. I have interruptions, but. Of course, I would recommend to an experience which is as broad as possible. But again, it really depends on depends. For example, it would be very difficult if, for example, if you are a medicinal chemist, a PhD in chemical cell or an MS or a BS, you want a lab career or no lab career? For example. So, because you can have a PhD in medicinal chemistry, you want an MBA because you want to become a manager. You should not. This should be taken into consideration. This is a very good opportunity sometimes. So it depends from what you want to do. If you want a lab career, it's different. So it's difficult to answer. But I would, of course, from my experience, I would recommend to move as much as possible to make as much experiences.
Yeah, the problem, Roberto, that Cristina was saying is that it's very difficult in this moment because of the COVID situation, the coronavirus.
I missed that. No, in this moment, there is a special situation. I would say there's nothing to do, and maybe webinars, but that's. I don't know. We are really isolated. Also, I think it's the experience of all of us. Now we are isolated. I don't receive guests from a couple of months. So we communicate more. For students, this is especially difficult. Probably we can only hope that this will pass, but or else they don't have other choice than to stay in their institution. That's of course, or to move. I don't know. COVID is something special. We suffer of that, of course, especially also in companies. But
Giulio?
Tracy, what do you think? Tracy,
I think
what is your experience?
maybe it can be the time to invest in, there are many interesting webinars such as this one or online courses. You can maybe improve your English, you can improve your knowledge on intellectual property. That is always very useful. So maybe there are online courses on these skills that are very important in drug discovery and development. And let's hope that the situation will get better as soon as possible.
We have stopped our internship. So this year we will not have internship from a PFL or other institution that were sending one student every year to test, for example. So we stopped all that. So unfortunately, and we don't know when we will go back. It's a responsibility you cannot take to have people from outside, and still, at least in Italy.
Yeah. Giulio wanted to comment, and probably we will.
I just wanted to say two things. That sure, travel mobility is extremely restricted, but that doesn't mean that this time can't be used to plan, because sooner or later the situation will get better. And especially for longer term plans, it is important to engage with professors and get to know them, and even apply even for a postdoc. Even if you're going to graduate in 6 or 9 months from now, it's important to get a feeling of would this be something of interest to you, because it always takes two to tango. And this is the time to really start going back and think about what you want to do, because we kind of all have to hit the pause button and reassess our situation and our trajectory in the future. And also what Tracy said, there is no better time than now to learn about things that also Marcus talked about. Who would not want to show up and give a great presentation whenever they are interviewing for their next position? So now, if you don't have the possibility to travel, to do internships abroad, you have the possibility to learn to do public speaking, learn about something you've always wanted to learn on, program, English, you name it.
That's great reply. Thank you so much. I think we all have to stay positive and actually use this time to boost our skills, and that's where the Young Scientists Network is actually trying to support young scientists for this. And we all hope that things will get better and we will learn a lot more, taking into account the situation. So with that, I think we're already 5 minutes late, but I can still see that there are a lot of people still logged in. So which means that, everyone keeps on enjoying your opinions and your answers to how proceed with the future career development for young scientists. And I also encourage all the young scientists to actually reach out to any of us on LinkedIn, connect, and then ask more questions, because unfortunately we couldn't go through all the questions, taking into account that we have limited amount of time. But yeah, guys, let's network, let's stay together, let's see. You never know where your next opportunity for a postdoc, for a PhD, for an internship comes next. And here you have professors, you have people working in startup, you have people working in pharma companies, CROs. There are a lot of opportunities for each of you to join great companies or great universities and find your own career pathway, because there is no identical one career pathway out there. So I would like to thank all of you for this great roundtable discussion, and go back to my slide deck, where I would just like to mention again that Young Scientists Network really wants to support and inspire and connect young medicinal chemists and chemical biology in their early career. We keep on organizing new events. We want to make sure that we'll stay connected and all the opportunities will be shared among you. You can find us on all social media, and please feel free to reach to us. And the next event, the 4th MedChem Bio Online, will take place in September, because people start slowly going on vacation, and which is great. So that some borders got open, at least in Europe. So let's take some time off and recharge batteries and start with the next series already in September. Thank you so much, guys, for your time. Thank you so much for participation in this great roundtable. Thanks to all the organizers. Thanks for Synple Chem for sponsoring this event. And thanks to EFMC to give us this opportunity to organize MedChem Bio Online. With that, I would like to close the session, and I wish you a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Goodbye.
Bye, Christina. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye to all of you. Ciao.
Hi, everybody.